Wow, I'm back. So, week of isolation, detox, silent retreat, complete. I I didn't have any way to know what day it was. There's some kind of meter in the kitchen that where I had the time and the date, but I'm stupid. So what happened was that on the last day, Sunday, right? I started on Monday, so it was supposed to end on Sunday. Supposed to be the last day. I woke up, did my thing, same as usual, same routine. It's crazy how well. I mean, it's not crazy, but when you have a routine, you just you go to sleep at the same time. Your body will just wake up naturally at the same time as well. I didn't have an alarm or anything, so I woke up at the same time, did my thing, and then someone rings the bell to get into the building, the alarm. So I run there. I didn't wear anything but boxers for the whole week, so I had this pair of sweatpants by the door whenever there was a delivery, because between my brother and my mother, they receive two package per day at least each. So I go to the door, get the intercom thing, answer. Not the one replies, so I go back to my room, and then someone knocks on the door. So I go to the door, I open it. It's Sunday, probably another delivery. I open it and it's my mum with her luggages, and she's just come back from France. So I didn't think about that then, but what it meant was, so I guess I won't be able to complete the full week, because she's arriving Sunday. But it so happens that it was Monday, it wasn't Sunday, so I was about to do a day extra. It was Monday, so she tells me, "What? You okay? People, no one's been able to contact you. They thought you were done. It was supposed to be Monday. You were supposed to be finished." So I was finished. Right? She arrived. I was so happy to see her, to get another human being to converse with, my mom, whom I love, and it was good. It was finished. The first few days were a bit more difficult. The first 2 days, I took 5 naps in those 2 days. The first 5 naps I took this year. The first 5 naps I took in my life as an adult. I don't remember as a kid. As a kid, you take naps, but I was never a napper. So I took 5 naps in the first 2 days. I guess to catch up on sleep. Are you so close, man? To catch up on sleep. So I took a few naps on those days. Also, I was so bored. I figured something out. Reading is so good. It's a perfect replacement for mindless video entertainment and films. Actually, it's just perfect replacement in general for these things, and it's just as entertaining, if not more. So I went back to reading. I read 5 books in that week, but it took me a while to get the hack of this whole week isolation thing. Just keep reading. Reading is fun, it's enjoyable, and it kills time really quickly. So on those first 2 days, I was just walking around, talking to myself, not really knowing how to structure this thing to make it, painless, if you will. Also, I hurt my right arm 2 days before the isolation thing. I think it was in an arm wrestle. I don't know. Yeah, probably. That and maybe more things. Arm wrestle, which I lost. I won the first one, lost the second one. Other guys said it was because of the height advantage in the first one, because we were standing. We're 1-1. I lost the second one, and I think I kind of pushed too hard and probably at a bad angle. And then the next day we had to clean the restaurant, lifting furniture, lifting fridges. So I think that kind of compiled. And my right arm's a bit fucked. My elbow, wrist, and shoulder, something is not good. So I didn't work out as hard as I would have liked to. Every morning I have this bike here, right? This stationary bike thing, right? That you can just bike on. Which I hate cardio. I always hated running. But actually this thing is it's not as bad. It's a bit almost enjoyable. So in the morning, to put myself in the headspace of a CEO of a billion-dollar company that rules the world, I would hop on the bike and read a book at the same time, cycling and reading, to put myself in the headspace of the type of person who rules the world, because obviously that's what they do, right? That makes total sense. Educate yourself whilst educate yourself whilst strengthening your body first thing in the morning, whilst all the losers are sleeping. So that's what I did. And so after the first 2 days, I figured out more. I figured out more how to get through this in a productive way. So I started reading a lot more. I started reading an abridged version of the Bible for school. Interesting. Abraham is definitely a good name. Thank you, parents. That was a good choice. Cool dude, this Abraham guy. Bible, something about Greek mythology, another Greek philosophy thing. I read American Gods as well. That's good. And other stuff. So lots of reading, a bit of writing. I don't know how to say this, but it's like social media and all this, probably social media and YouTube, but just this influx, an infinite influx of videos and content. It does something to our brain. It just kind of blocks things, distracts us so much that we don't really focus on other things. The result of me reading is that I just wanted to write more. I wrote more. I was reading poetry as well. I wrote more. I just wanted to write things similar to the things I was reading. I was just very inspired. So I started writing more, drawing more. I'm back to being consistent at drawing, improving. And so I want to... It's ridiculous to say. I wrote down somewhere, I don't know. What was it? Read, draw, write, work out, repeat. That's basically my life. That's, in a few days I'll have to go back to work, and there'll be a big chunk of work in the middle, which I have to make productive for myself by putting effort into that. But those are the things that I have to focus on every single day. Work out, read, draw, write, repeat. And that's what I did for those 7 days. So drawing, I want to make a graphic novel. Now, I've been writing down, I mentioned that before, I've been writing down ideas for a graphic novel. But, I have to slow down. So I'm going to make a short graphic novel first. I also want to make a kid's book, a children's book. I want to make lots of children's books. But I'm going to make a short graphic novel. And also I want to write a novel, but I'm going to write first a bunch of short stories, because I've never written a novel before. I've never written even a short story before. So I started writing a short story, before I start on the novel that I've been concocting. Didn't have any technology, so I have a bunch of notepads, a bunch of Waiter notepads that I've been writing down ideas on for the novel. Now there's a short novel. The novel is going to be called Phantom Thread. It's going to be set in a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, I'm not going to go into details about that, because I have to write a short story first anyways. I wrote the first 800 words of the short story. Boing! Right here. I think it was on the last day actually. Well, that's the short story, yeah. Also, similar to, the same as how reading makes you want to write things like the things you're reading because you like them. Well, to me at least. Although I do know, I keep being reminded of the fact that most people, when you ask them, what are you up to? What are you doing? What projects are you working on? Most people are not working on anything. Most people just don't have anything going. Which, by anything going, I don't mean something that brings money, and it's not about that. There hasn't been a point in my life where I didn't have projects that I was working on. Short-term projects that would maybe take weeks, months, a year, and then long-term projects that I've been working on since I was 12, 16. Like, I'm still working on projects right now. By project, I mean, stories that I've been building since I was 12. Oh, the water is out of reach. So I've always been working on things, and I'm always asking people around me, especially people who seem to be creative, what are you working on? And it seems like no one is working on anything. So, poetry. I've always liked poetry. I've always liked storytelling, things of that nature. So from reading a lot of Baudelaire, I've started writing a poem. The first 2 lines just came to me, and I think they're all right. I like them. They sound, I don't know. It's weird how I'm reading this poetry, right, by Baudelaire, And then it's like the same way if you ask ChatGPT to write you a Baudelaire poem, ChatGPT will look at the entirety, I suppose, of Baudelaire's oeuvre and kind of synthesize that and create something that is not perfect, but it's gonna feel like it was made by Baudelaire. But that's just how our minds work. You read a bunch of Baudelaire and a bunch of poems, and then, at least for me, and then you start writing like him. So the poems are supposed to have specific structure, right? There's a amount of syllables, blah, 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 A, B, or A, B, B, A, blah, blah, blah. I need to look into that because I'm not sure, and they all have names. Like this, the structure you pick has a name, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, this one has no name. I don't know what, I think they might be called stanzas. Can't pronounce that word, I'm too French. But like a block, right? A poem might be, I don't know, 4 blocks of 4 lines. It's not a paragraph. Or maybe a stanza is just a line. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I have 4 such blocks of 4 lines. Well, the second block I don't really like much. Then I have an isolated little block of 2 lines. The first block, a half of a line is not yet to my satisfaction as a first draft. Anyways, I like the first 2 lines and I like the idea of the poem. Well, it's just a fucking kind of sad love poem. I mean, right? If you're gonna write a poem, write it about love. Ces yeux de soleil brûlent encore dans mes pensées, bien que nous fûmes distancés d'un millier de sommeils. I sound weird when I'm just reading and recite. Well, I'm not really reciting, I'm just reading. I sound different. Ces yeux de soleil. Anyways, ces yeux de soleil brûlent encore dans mes pensées, bien que nous fûmes distancés d'un millier de sommeils. Ils réveillent en moi cette passion dispersée que j'eusse consacrée aux arts, aux jeux et au ciel. Et ses lèvres, croissant comme des lunes de sang, j'eusse attendu 100 ans pour me poser dessus, traverser le néant pour une nuit de pluie, puis 1000 pluies de plomb et déluge incandescent. And then the little 2 isolated lines. Ainsi je jette ma passion dans un puits sans fond, et mes larmes s'effacent sur sa trouble surface. I like this thing. I'm gonna finish it, and maybe I'll be proud of it. So yeah, I'm writing a poem. Right, that's gonna be 4 times 4 lines, so it's not a big thing. Just gotta finish it, but it's not as intuitive as other things. In terms of finishing it, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit like a kind of a puzzle, not really a puzzle. The Sphinx, right? The Sphinx gives you an enigma. Maybe it's a bit more like an enigma. Then there's the first 700 words also of the short story. I'm not gonna read that. Bunch of paper with a bunch of different notes. Useless. I read. This is good. I remember I first saw this. I had a friend who lived on the 5th floor. We lived on the 7th floor when I lived in Paris. Must have been, well, it was before I was 10. I was really, fuck, this is old, huh? Is it? Actually, the date is on there somewhere, so. What the fuck? You don't write the date of when this was released on the thing? Have to go on the internet? What's wrong with you? What the fuck? Why isn't the date here somewhere? There's just a blank page and then it starts. You need to chill, guys. Information is power. So, when was the first? Ah, 2006. So it started in 2006 when I was either 6 or 7. I think I was around that age, between 6 and 10. When I first saw it, I remember I would wake up in his house and he was always still sleeping, right? Awkward. I would just look around, try to fake like I'm sleeping for some reason, just look around, was bored. But his room was a mess, and one of these graphic novels was just laying about. I started reading it, and then my father started buying them for me. Fucking 2006, 18 years ago almost. 17 years, soon to be 18. 18 years, Jesus. Wow. And so my father started buying them for me, and now I need to buy them for myself because I'm an adult. I have tasked my brother, since he's in France, to buy the rest. So yeah, it's a good novel. I picked it up because, if you can see, right? I mean, it's very well drawn, but the hands are beautiful. So I started just recently. I opened the book and I started just drawing every hand that I could see myself, right? And then I stopped and I started just reading the whole thing and finished the 11 books we have, because it's really good. Why did I mention that? Because I read this as well. So, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Maybe that's a good title. Well, I mean, it's very referential, but no, I should focus on titles that are more obscure and that are not stop the reference bullshit, okay? Make your own shit. But anyways, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? I like this. I don't know. What is it? I suppose it's a philosophical question. It's obviously not a scientific question. It's not. It does make a sound, is the answer, yes. But I wanted to compare it to, well, I mean, the question of it is if something is not seen, right? There's this idea in science, this idea. Is it a theory or is it just an observed fact that atoms behave differently when they're observed and when they're not? I remember reading this a long time ago, so I won't be able to do it justice. But there's something to that effect, that when something an atom has been observed and when it's not, it behaves differently. It was a test. I think there was like a hole and they had to pass the atom through, and when they were watching it, it passed through, and when they weren't watching it, it broke into two, and then I don't know, something like that. But this idea that something behaves differently when it's been observed, this idea that observing something is actually very powerful. The act of observing changes what is being observed. And so, but this question applies, I mean, this question should be turned into, if an artist makes a work of art and no one sees it, does the work of art exist? And the answer to that is no. Because there's 3 steps to making art. The first step is you find an idea. The second step is some people plan out, some people don't. You plan out and you make it. And the third step is you share it. So if you don't do the third step, art is a magnificent thing. And when you share it, right, the point of art is to create something beautiful. Now, even ugly art can have its own beauty. And sometimes you make things that you want, and you want to make them ugly, right? But art is all about reflecting the human condition. And so in creating art, it is inherently a beautiful thing, even if you make something that's very ugly. And maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. But there's something inherently beautiful, I think, about creating art. And if you have an egg, right? A raw egg is not an omelette. You put a raw egg in a frying pan and you start frying it, or you start cooking it, and then you stop halfway through and it's not complete and it's all runny, right? That's not an omelette either. That's almost an omelette, but not quite. I think it's the same thing with art, where if you make a work of art, however good it is, and you don't share it, then it's incomplete. So the act of sharing is very important. I think that's the note. That's what the note was trying to get at. This idea that sharing art is very important. And so, yeah, I'm trying to force myself to share things regularly now. And art kind of sounds pretentious, sharing art. Just sharing something that you've made, right? It's as simple as that. On that topic, since I talked about poetry just a few moments ago, I video called my brother once I sorted out the internet, which I had unplugged, and apparently I was late a month, so I had to pay more money than I would have liked to. Anyways, it took a while to get back, but eventually I called my brothers and my father, and we talked about briefly, I talked about the experience because they asked me about the week, and I talked about poetry, and I said that I don't really like poetry in English, or I don't think it's as good, I don't like it as much as poetry in French. And I made a comparison. I don't remember what it was. I thought it was really smart between English poetry and French poetry, or more like between using French to write poetry and using English to write poetry. And I made an example. I thought I was really smart, comparison. And my brother said it's like comparing a knife to a hammer, right? And I did not concede to him that his comparison was much better than mine. The proof is I can't remember mine, but his has stuck. But it was perfect. I didn't tell him. I didn't admit it. I did not admit it in a moment. But his was perfect, spot on. right? It's like comparing a knife to a hammer. And so it definitely sounds arrogant to say this, especially, right? French people are known, they're considered like arrogant asshole. It's part of our genetic makeup, really, right? We're known as the arrogant ones, but well, what can I do, right? I can't. It is what it is. But it's absolutely true. Or it's like comparing Helvetica, the Helvetica font, which is magnificent and minimalist, I don't know. Very simple, beautiful, perfect. Comparing that to handwriting. And handwriting, and imagine like an old-time, beautiful handwriting. So with this beautiful handwriting, there's a lot of character in it, right? It's more intricate, it's more kind of flowery, there's this flourishes, and it has all this character. And Helvetica is very simple. Now, I'm not saying that a beautiful handwriting with lots of, you know what I'm saying, little curves and blah, blah, blah. And Helvetica, I'm not saying that this font is better than Helvetica. In fact, Helvetica might be my favorite font. It's beautiful. But it's similar how English is this very compact, simple, minimalist language. I only know 2 languages, French and English. But as far as I can tell, English it's beautiful in that way that it's simple. And French is more complex. But that means you have more to play with. And in poetry, where poetry is concerned, to me, the complexities, right, and the amounts you have to play with, and all the way the words work, in French is much more appealing. Poetry that is not necessarily complex. I don't know how you would describe it, but when I read a poem in English, there's something about it that it's too concise, too to the point, too simple. There's more to play with in French, I find. So, yeah, I don't really read poetry in English. I'm sure there's great poetry in English, and I'll look into that eventually. But at the moment, from what I've seen, I'm much more attracted to French poetry. And so, a hammer and a knife, I thought that was perfect. Imagine cooking with a hammer, having that tool in replacement of a knife, right? I thought that was interesting. And conversely, or inversely perhaps, on the other side, I really like hip-hop, right? And rap. And rap, urban poetry, right? That's the idea at the start. I mean, now today, no. But rap in French, the content, that's what the point is. Now, people might be laughing. Hearing rap in French, whether you're French or not, especially when you're not French, doesn't sound half as good as hearing rap in English, because English is the perfect language for rap. It just is, right? Rap sounds much better in English. But being someone who understands both languages, right? And rap in French can absolutely sound good. If you speak the language, it must be weird if you don't. But because just French, the way it sounds, to me, it just doesn't work as well with the format of rap and of lyricism on the beat. But in French rap, if you look at the best rappers in French, and I mean historically, not the rappers who are the most famous, the most popular today because they're all crap, but the best. You look at, I Am, you look at So Akhenaton and Shuriken, you look at Mauvais Oeil by Lunatic, you look at Arsenic, I don't know. People who are actually just craftsmen with words, who are really well spoken. Kerry James. And what I like about it is the poetry of it. It's how, similar to just regular French poetry, is how the way they use the words, the beauty of it, the words and the content. Now, on the other side, with rap in English, to me, it's all about the delivery as opposed to the context. It's all about the delivery as opposed to the content. Now, with modern rap, even in France as well, everywhere, it's all about delivery nowadays. Your voice is an instrument, and it's not about the things you're saying. It's about how your flow and how it goes with the beats. It's basically you are an instrument. It's about the way it sounds more than anything. Content is dead nowadays. There's a few people, people will always say Kendrick Lamar, and he's really good. But nowadays, rap has evolved into this thing where it's all about delivery and flow and how you ride the beat. And to me, the best freestyle of all time might not be the best freestyle of all time, but the first thing that comes to my mind, it might come to your mind too, whether you're a hip-hop head or not, is Black Thought on, what was it? Doesn't matter. But the 10 minutes freestyle. And you look at that thing, and content-wise, it's not that interesting or that good. There's a bunch of rhymes, Caesar and Brutus, Jesus and Judas, just that are, they're all right, but there's not much content in there. It's rhymes for rhyme's sake. It's a lot of ego trip and stuff like that. There's not that much content in there. People kind of lose their minds where he starts mentioning, I don't know, I think Cleopatra and F. Fitzgerald, what's his name? I don't know. F. Scott Fitzgerald, and because you're not used to rappers mentioning literary figures and just figures from history, right? But there's no content in there. Okay, F. Scott Fitzgerald, it's funny. It's all right, but there's not that much content in there. But the delivery, right? It's magnificent. It's top level, especially for 10 minutes straight. Supposedly a freestyle, as in he made it on the spot. Now that's very unlikely. He had many rhymes ready and everything, for sure. But so, I'm sorry for your loss. There's a body dead in the car, and it's probably one of yours. Just the way he writes the beat is beautiful. It's perfect. I've examined that whole freestyle, and the amount of syllables and blah blah blah. All this thing is really a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. You can look at there's the analysis by, I think, probably by Genius on YouTube, right? Just a masterclass. But it's all about the way it sounds and the delivery and how he's making every single word rhyme. So yeah, rap in English is all about delivery. In French, partly out, not out of necessity, but a fact is it just doesn't sound as good. So that can't be the selling point. But when you speak French and English, there's a true divide between the best French rappers and the kind of content they deliver, which is truly modern poetry. They are the best, some of the best poets, in France. Some, the really good ones at times. Really, I'm being generous, but at the best, it's really good in terms of content. And in the English language, much more about the way it sounds and the delivery and the flow and the vibe of it. Knife and Hammer. What else? Shit, there's a bunch of notes, but I don't want to talk about these things. I don't want to talk. Today, I went to Ben's house. Ben is my colleague from work, Uncle Ben. Cut down his trees. He said, come, during the holidays and cut down my trees. I'll pay you. And I was going to say I didn't have any expectations, but actually I immediately had expectations when he said cut down my trees. I imagined in the front of his house, like, for some reason, I immediately built this image of just some branches kind of lingering where they shouldn't be, just a few branches. And maybe he'll have one of those thing, and I'll cut a few branches and then I'll be done. He wanted me to cut down the trees, the actual trees. He has a chainsaw. He has at least 10 cutting equipments. He has 2 of these thing. He has 2 different chainsaws. He has this small chainsaw for cutting metal. Anyways, so I used mostly the chainsaw, which was fun. I mean, a chainsaw is fun. Like, cutting down trees is fun. It is really fun. And it's invigorating. But yeah, he wanted me to actually just cut down full on trees. Like, we cut branches from the neighbor's tree that were like this thick. It took me 10 minutes to just pushing with the chainsaw through it, starting to make fire. The chainsaw was old. It kept the actual chain or whatever it's called kept coming off, so I had to put it down, open it, put it back in. Yeah, that was fun. And so it was more work than I expected. And then the neighbor, we cut down some trees and the branches fell into her yard. But a lot of the trees from Ben's house were making their way into her garden, covering the way. So she said, they're getting in the way. Could you clean my garden? Like I'm some kind of handyman or a gardener. Like it's my job. I was here doing a favor for Ben, and now she's here trying to waste my time. Anyway, so I said, sure. How much are you willing to pay? Right? So I've seen so many of those videos. As a graphic designer specifically. How to make money, how to negotiate and things like that. But just how to negotiate in general. Don't say your price. Say how much are you willing to pay. You put the ball in their corner, because when they're putting the ball in your corner, right, they're trying to fuck you over, because it's like that scene in Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal where he asks Riz Ahmed, he tells him, you're getting a raise now. how much do you want? And Riz Ahmed says something like, I don't know, $100 more per month. And Jake Gyllenhaal says, okay, you got it. And 2 seconds later, Riz is like, I could have asked for more, right? And Jake is like, yep, too late now. It's just that thing of, it's complex, right? I can't just say an amount. Well, I mean, it's tricky because as it's happening, before anything has happened, I can't just say an amount that's outrageously high, especially since I have it's not my profession, I'm not good at it or anything, but I don't want to get robbed. Anyways, so I tell her, how much are you willing to pay? And then she immediately replies, oh, I don't have much money, right? Now, I'm going to say it this way because that's just how I thought it in the moment. And it's because it's just, if you think about how the universe, watching this comedy that is life, with the laugh track and everything, right? Everything is just, there's someone somewhere watching or something. And there's the laugh track and he's watching a screen, right? And that was one of those moments where he said, bitch, what? Undeniably, that was one of those moments because she had a BMW, an electric BMW with the charger thing in the wall in the front of her house, part of her house. Electric BMW that was charging, a Mini and a Kia. And Ben told me that her husband works for BMW. And the first thing she tells me is, oh, I don't have much money. Like I'm supposed to take pity on her. Like she's some person on the street that's asking for a favor. Like, bitch, I'm looking at your garden here. I'm looking at your house, okay? What the fuck are you? There's a camera in the front and everything. Why do you have cameras? If you don't have much money, there's nothing to steal. Well, what are you protecting yourself from? So immediately that comment, I don't have much money. Okay, although we're not saying it, this exchange, right, is a negotiation. Right, we're trying to see where each other is. You're going to start it by just this weird lie, oh, I don't have much money. What does that mean? Because I'm not going to ask you for a crazy rate, considering it's not my job or anything, but I'm not going to lie to you. I want to see where you're at. If you say, I don't have much money, straight up, it's like, oh, so you mean you're a lying piece of shit. Very unnecessary. I gave her my phone number like a dumbass because I was trying to be polite. She was like, oh yeah, I'll call you, maybe come back. I wrote it fast, so I might have written it wrong. Who knows? It doesn't matter. So that was today, cutting down a tree. Ben just, every time the chainsaw went off, which was like every 15 minutes, the first time I was just fixing the chainsaw, he brought me a cigarette, like basically put it into my mouth. Ben likes smoking cigarettes, and every time I'm with him, I end up smoking a cigarette. Just put it into my mouth. Okay, I'm smoking a cigarette. I haven't bought cigarettes in a long time, and I was never a smoker, and I don't really enjoy it that much. But for some reason, it's fun to just smoke a cigarette and drink with Ben. I don't know. He's like this uncle. He's Uncle Ben. He's like this uncle figure. This uncle that I don't have since all my uncles are crazy. Cool to hang around with. Anyways, he just puts it in my mouth, lights it up, right? 10 minutes later, the chainsaw, is not working again. I have to fix it. He's like, and he just says like, I'll get the cigarettes, and just runs away, like a kid almost, and then brings the cigarettes. I think I smoked 4 or 5 cigarettes today. And then he brought me a beer. I also thought about how it's strange how that's just normal. I mean, to me it's weird, but to a lot of people it's just normal. Smoking a cigarette and I never got into cigarettes. I don't enjoy them, so I don't think I'll ever get addicted to it or get into it. I'm addicted to these things, plastic toys for kids, these vape shits. But they taste sweet, so it's more difficult. And same with alcohol. I don't really like alcohol that much. We had a pint afterwards of Guinness at the local bar thing, pub. I don't know. Alcohol, overrated. And I think it's a bit like trauma, how things happen in your life, right? And they define you, big things. And I think, well, it's also a force of habit. But yeah, I was never a drinker or a smoker, and so it's just whenever I do it, I never feel like, oh, I'm kind of stuck in it now. But it's partly about your environment, but also it's about sometimes things happen and they just define you and you attach yourself to them. Anyhow, ni hao. Anyhow, I think Jewish people do on Sunday, right? They have a day practicing Jews who are serious about it. On Sunday they do no technology, I think, or like no electricity. I think I'm going to do that too now. I'm now partly Jewish. Abraham, here, partly Jewish. I'm going to do that every Sunday, I think. Not no electricity, but no technology. As soon as, the world reopened to me, so to speak, somewhat sarcastically, oh my God, it's so hard to just let go of, your phone, this endless scroll, YouTube videos and stuff. Really hard. Like, I had a hard time waking up this morning. I didn't want to get out of bed, which I haven't experienced in a week. It was just effortless, And I went to bed yesterday at the same time as the week previous. So what happened? Why is it hard all of a sudden? And yeah, been less inspired, been reading less, writing less. So it's all about, balance, I suppose. But I feel like, for example, I went to eat. So on my first day out of detox, I ate at the same time as usual, but this time I had my phone. Yeah, my phone. What was I doing? I was eating and I was on my phone. I don't know, scrolling or watching video. And after 5 minutes, I thought, wait. So for the past week, I didn't have my phone. I didn't have anything, and eating was actually for the first few days the highlight of my day because I was just counting the hours because I was so bored and I had no structure. The only structure I had was 6 p.m. I start preparing my meal and then I eat. And so I was actually looking forward to that time of the day. And then I would, cook, blah, 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 sit down with my meal ready and eat, and enjoy it, take my time in silence. And I was like, now I know my purpose in this world right now. It's to eat. It's not to ramble around and roam the empty house like a dumbass. And so I thought to myself, why am I looking at this? Is this making the experience better? Is it making anything better that I am currently on my phone? Am I getting anything out of it? I don't remember if it was my phone. Yeah, I think it was my phone. Am I getting anything out of it? Or even like playing music. Am I getting anything out of it whilst I'm eating? And then I thought, no, I'm not actually. It's actually taken away from the peaceful, enjoyable, just celebration that is eating. Really, it is. It's like I eat one meal a day, and I'm not hungry all day now because I've kind of worked out, how to make it work. But it is very enjoyable. When you eat just once a day, it just makes it that much more special than if you eat, 3, 4, 5, 2 times a day. It's like, here's the food, enjoy the food, appreciate it. Like, part of the reason that I have one meal a day is because I like the idea that when I eat, I'm eating, and I'm refueling my body. And if I can do it just this once, why kind of scatter it around the day and then distract myself from what I'm doing? After I've eaten, I need to digest. It kind of, lowers my energy. I'll just make it once a day. Eat as much as in that one meal as I would in multiple meals. After a while, you get used to it. It's a big chunk of food, but after a while, you get used to it. Eat that once, and to me, it makes logical sense, right? The entire day, I'm doing things, I'm working. That way I don't kind of say, I don't cut off whatever I'm doing, my concentration to go eat. I eat at this point in time at the end of the day when everything I had to do that day has been completed for the most part. And then after that, my energy is a bit lower. I'll go read, do something like that. So it makes sense. But the phone doesn't make sense because the phone, it's always distracting. The phone is a bit like these ads on YouTube videos, right? You're watching your fucking video. You're watching an NPR, okay? You're watching an NPR of your favorite artist, right? Finally, they got Rakim, the greatest rapper of all time, my favorite rapper of all time. They got Rakim to do, a session on NPR. Oh, there's a fucking band. There's what's his name, Kingfish on the electric guitar. He's fucking killing it. The song sounds better than ever. And then put an ad through it, right? It's like, fuck, I was invested in this. I was in the moment, and you put an ad for it, and it's distracting. The phone is the same thing. The phone is this thing, right, where you're just going about your day. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but then your mind just thinks, I need to check my phone, or the phone rings, or the phone, there's an alert. It's just some fucking junk email, and now it's taken your attention somewhere else, uselessly, right? So, fucking asshole. It's on airplane mode. But yeah, the phone is this thing that's always taking your concentration away from whatever you're doing that's important. Then I need to figure out a way to make it as minimal, to make its impact on my life as minimal as possible. Why do I need my phone? Why? What are the reasons? Communication. I need to find a way to really stream that down and make it just a less important part. And my phone, I don't even know why I keep looking at. Well, because I'm playing, for example, 100 different games. Literally, I'm playing 100 games of chess, day chess, where you have a day to play. So I keep getting notifications for that. I cut off the beep, right? It doesn't make a sound. But still, I'm always thinking, I should check on my phone if it's my time to play. There's just a bunch of reasons, an accumulation of things that contribute to making this tool extremely distracting. And I need to find a way to get that out, because on that 1 week, after a few days of settling, that 1 week of detox, I just found my mind was much more focused. I just felt good. An example I'll use is that, well, I would be walking around the flat with my phone. If I go in the kitchen to do the dishes or whatever, I'll bring my phone, in case I get a message or call, blah blah blah. When I go eat in the living room, same, I'll bring my phone. It's like this thing that I'm carrying with me everywhere, all the time. But in that week, I didn't have my phone. But I carried, for example, that plastic piece of shit vape. I would go in the kitchen to cook, I'll carry the vape with me, blah blah blah. And now I carry my phone and my vape, or sometimes just one. But the point I'm trying to make is, during that week, I never once thought, where did I put my vape? Not once. It never happened. Never. Or I never thought, where did I put that book or that thing that I was holding a few moments ago? I always knew where everything I had put down was, right? Because I was present when I was just present, right? I put down something, I knew where I had put it down, I went to do something else, blah, blah, blah. And then the first day, I don't know where I put the vape. The first day, I don't know where I put my phone, right? Because I'm just distracted. I'm just generally distracted. And it's like an obvious sign, right? It's an obvious thing. During that week, I was focused, and not focused on something specific. I was focused on the present, on being present, on where I was currently. I knew where I was, I knew what I was doing. But when you're always thinking, I might get a message, or I might need to check this, check that, all these things, right? You're not focused on the present moment. You're distracted. So that was a clear example of the effect. Also, not having the access to the internet is annoying. I have this notebook here where I wrote a bunch of notes of things that I needed to do once I was out of the silent retreat, just things in general. A lot of these were check things on the internet, information that I didn't have. Now I found out, for example, for the poem, I needed a rhyme. So the fourth line of the first paragraph, que j'eusse consacré aux arts, aux jeux et au ciel, it's not satisfactory. I don't like it. So I need a rhyme with soleil and sommeil, right? So I thought, in normal times I would just go on the internet, and the internet would give me every single rhyme with omei or may, right? But I don't have that. So I had to go old school. Now I happen to be very fortunate in that my family they're quite cultured, and they like art and culture, and my mother is a songwriter. I'm just very fortunate in that regard. So we have a bunch of books. So I went old school. I started looking for the books, and I found a book on rhymes in French. We also have a book on rhymes in English, because my mother has that, because she needs that. Now I don't think everyone has that, right? But it's weird how this kind of synchronicity, or how in sync we are in the things that we are interested in. I just found that anything that I would normally have run to the internet to find, it was just there. I have it. At first, I panicked. I thought, okay, I can't find a rhyme with omei. I can, try to think of some, but it would be much easier if I could go on the internet. And I thought, well, that's just going to be my life for the next few days. I'm going to be thinking, what about this? What about that? What is this? What is that? And I won't be able to get an answer. But actually, it turns out that didn't happen. Most answers I needed, I could find them, here. And just the sense also that, I can't distract myself now. No, I have everything I need. But so, yeah, I found that book. What was I mentioning that? Yeah, I still haven't found the right rhyme that I was looking for, but I have the book somewhere right there. And I have a page with all the rhymes that I might have been looking for. But another thing was the 7 deadly sins. Right. So the first example I mentioned was the realization that actually there are much more resources in my house than I, suspected. One, and two, that actually because as a family, just in every single room of this house, as a family, because we are all artists and we're all people who are interested in knowledge and in culture, there is so much in this house. There's so much, right? Why go on the internet to learn anything really when I don't know anything that's already just in my house? Why would I buy a book on the internet? Oh, you should read this book. Yeah, but there's a million books. Well, there's a few hundred books in the house that are really good that I should read, right? So yeah, this realization that just of the amount of knowledge that's spread around the house that's available, of interesting things, books namely. The second thing was I was thinking, so on the second or third day, I meditated in the afternoon. I used to meditate twice a day for, every single day for a year and a half. And then midway through this year, I stopped. And it seems like a lot of things started crumbling after that. I couldn't see the positive effects it was having. And also I thought to myself, let's stop and see what happens. And I thought, nothing. For the first few days, I thought nothing's happened. Right? It was just a waste of time. And I'm seeing now, in hindsight, a lot of things kind of crumbled because of that. And, willpower is very overrated. Discipline and structure and just doing the same thing over and over again is better than willpower. Once you get into a routine, it's not about willpower. It's just normal for you. Willpower will only get you so far. This morning I got up because of willpower, right? I didn't feel like it, but I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna get up. But the past 7 days, it was effortless, right? And you think about your entire life. If tomorrow is as difficult, if I feel as lazy as I did this morning, am I gonna get up? I hope so. But if it's like that for the rest of my life, I need to work out what are the things that are making it so. Because when it was effortless, that was just easier. And once again, it sounds like a weak thing to say, right? No, I have willpower. Whatever gets in my way, I'll use my willpower to get through it. But the reality is, it's just not how it works. Willpower will only get you so far. It's all about creating systems and structures that can make it easier. Right? There's plenty of difficult things in life. The important things, the big things, the goals you have, might be difficult. Find a way to make it easier. Anyways, the second thing that I wanted to mention, the second realization. So I started meditating again, and with the space I had, something in my nail. It was much easier, right? I was able to go back to a state of meditation that I hadn't been able to get into for probably for more than a year. When I started meditating, I was able to just close my eyes, start meditating, and I would quite quickly, and it became second nature, just sink into this meditative state where I wasn't thinking, wasn't talking, blah blah blah. But that has stopped for a while. But when I got back to meditating a few days ago, I got back to that state. And so during that day, I was wondering about the deadly sins, the 7 deadly sins. I was thinking about how, that first day I meditated, right? And I thought, I'm going to keep doing that. The day after I had gone back to my regular meditation, I was thinking about the 7 deadly sins. Fuck, it doesn't make sense. Chronologically, what the fuck am I talking about? Because the point I was trying to make is that I couldn't find the 7th deadly sin. I had anger, pride, lust, laziness, gluttony, greed. I had these 6, which, I thought to myself, fuck, I don't have the internet. How am I going to get them? Okay, I got 6 because the information is there somewhere, right? I don't think we actually forget things totally. Like if you need a piece of information that you've learned at some point, I think that the proof is in the experience. But I think that a lot of the time we're so distracted that we just don't even give ourselves a chance to remember things. I have a terrible memory. I know that. I've always known that. I think it's more complicated than just having a terrible memory. But so I had 6. I was really proud of myself, but I thought, I need the internet now. I'm never gonna get a 7th one. And so I meditated. It sounds all hocus pocus, stupid, ridiculous. But I went to meditate in the afternoon. And boom, jealousy. Right? Jealousy was the thing I was missing. Now what's funny about that too is that whole day I had been having jealousy or envy. I had been having very jealous and envious thoughts that whole day, which is so funny. That whole day of thinking, fuck, what's the 7th deadly sin? I had been having these thoughts. I'm not going to go into details, but I tend to ramble in my mind. If something is irking me, I'll just think about it over and over again, and I'll make scenarios and blah 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 and what ifs, like most people. But I think I'm definitely at the top tier in terms of warriors with an O and an E and overthinkers. And then boom, I start meditating. Not thinking about the 7 deadly sins at all. I'm thinking about nothing. I know the 7th deadly sin, right? I've known it at some point. I've known it many times. I've watched this anime, the first few episodes of 7 Deadly Sins. I kept thinking about Full Metal Alchemist. There's the guy who's the gluttony. There's the traitor, the double agent, anger, blah, blah, blah. What's the last one? And when I stop thinking about it, it's like my mind knows, all right, now he's decluttered the desktop, right? It's not a mess anymore. Here's the information you've been looking for. Now that, it's not overheating. You know the answer, right? It's jealousy. So that was funny that I had been having these jealous thoughts all day. And it's also funny that when you let go of something, the power of letting go, something I've mentioned so many times, the power of it, it's so good. So, and it is just something that applies with everything. If you're stuck on something, just do something else. And you find that, you'll find your way back naturally to that thing that was stuck, and it will just open up. It's also one reason that I'm sticking to my approach of working on many projects at the same time, is that if I'm stuck on one project, I start working on another, and I find that I naturally find my way back into the other projects naturally that I was stuck on. But so yay meditation. But so the thing that I thought about the day previous when I started meditating again, and that made me think of the 7 deadly sins, is I thought about pornography and how in that time where I was meditating all day was, more than 7 months without pornography, which once again, some people might sound weird, but I started at 13, being bombarded by these things and becoming addicted. And that was the first time since 13 years old that I went 7 months without pornography. And I now, in hindsight, I attribute a lot of that to meditation, because in that 7 months, it wasn't difficult. Right? I just let go of it, and then I didn't think about it anymore. Pornography. So the idea was I associated meditation with lust. Right? The pornography you associated with one of the 7 deadly sins, which is lust. And then when I thought about that, I thought, what about the other deadly sins? So I thought of meditation as the kind of shield against lust. I associated the two. Now, I tried to work it out. It doesn't really work. But because meditation is a shield against every single deadly sin, it's just very powerful and very good. But nonetheless, I thought about just associating a practice that will help me against one of the 7 deadly sins. So jealousy, meditation helps. But now that I have the internet, also something I hadn't thought about was the opposite of each sin. So I don't know, for example, envy, the opposite is gratitude. So I made a little graph where I start thinking about things that I should be doing regularly to, keep these 7 deadly sins under control. This has been going on quite long, so I will bid you adieu. Yeah, I'm not going to keep talking. Fuck it. Thank you. All right, thank you and goodbye. And I highly recommend a day, 2 days, if possible 7 days of no technology. Yeah, I'm out. Thank you.